Okay, hello, everyone. My name is Diamond Rivera of Diamond Rivera Films, and you are tuned into season 4 of the Live Discussions with Diamond podcast. And today, here we have all the way from New Orleans, the one and only Bianca San Martín of Ritmeaux Krewe, also known as Lady DJ Lady B.
Hi,
Hello,
New
B.
Orleans in the house.
Absolutely. New Orleans is straight in the house. And honestly, this interview, like I've told you, has been a long time coming. And I mean, for me and you, our friendship goes back, I mean, maybe to like 2003.
Yep.
So, I mean, for me, having this platform and having the opportunity to speak to you that I feel as you as a resident of New Orleans, I've seen your growth and your evolution throughout the years and in all capacities, finding a way to contribute to your dance scene all of these years is something truly to be celebrated.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You're my brother, so
Yes.
it does mean a lot for me to be able to share this platform that you've created and get my story a little bit out there and spend some time with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And at least before we get started, I know you have a big trip coming up tomorrow, heading out to Puerto
Yes.
Rico.
Yes.
But also for people who don't know, right now New Orleans is going through kind of a crazy hurricane. Definitely subject to hurricanes throughout these months. And just in case if the connection kind of tunes out, you understand why. But honestly, I thank you, B, for just your time, your patience, and your effort.
Thanks. I'm
Absolutely.
excited.
Absolutely. And I mean, I can tell so many stories, but I think it's so important that people like yourself, people can understand where you are now, especially with you having right now, I believe, in New Orleans, the first Latin dance marching band, correct?
Group.
Marching
Yes.
group, marching group. And I think honestly, that's something like that's really historical, especially in the city of New Orleans. I
Yes.
mean, it predominantly, if people don't know, with second line bands, and you have your various groups do different festivals. So
Mhm.
realizing throughout decades and decades of we having Mardi Gras in certain festivals, this is the first
Yep.
Latin, and how does that honestly feel?
It feels really good. It's definitely a dream come true. A lot of hard work, but it's so rewarding when we're out there on the well, not floor, on the streets, doing our thing.
Yeah, and at least before we even get into that, I really love for my artists and especially to talk about how everything really started because most of us who I'm talking to are involved in the dance community in some form of fashion. So I think it's really important for people to understand where Bianca or how salsa came into your life or how dance came into your life.
So I was about 13 years old, and my mother was taking dance classes with Troy and at the time Georgette. And she would always come home after class. I'm like, come on, let's dance. I'm like, I'm good. You enjoy. But it got to a point where she was like, you're Latina and we're going to do something about it. So get on, let's go. We're going to class. So, it was really a push to kind of connect to my roots
Hmm.
and my culture. And my mother's from Honduras and my father's from Puerto Rico. So I grew up with salsa music and Latin music. Um, but I just really did not grow up that connected. So this was the bridge for me that really got me to me on some.
Man, and realizing with your parents and having that influence, and like you said, kind of getting back to your roots. It really resonates with me because, in all honesty, many people who know me myself, I am part Puerto Rican, but I'm not very fluent in Spanish. So
Hmm.
also, what you're saying it resonates with me because that was what my family did because they realized if you wasn't able to speak it, you better
Yeah,
sure know learn how to dance it.
you better.
Man,
Yes.
and also what you said, you were speaking about a gentleman named Troy Anthony. And for
Yep.
many people who don't know, Troy used to be in a group with Georgette. And this was back in the days years ago, but honestly, Troy has been a main staple in New Orleans, or really was one of
Absolutely.
the first artists to really
Yes.
break out and kind of
Yeah.
give New Orleans some type of name for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, Troy is definitely like my salsa dad.
Hmm.
To this day, I still look up to him and learn so much from him. Most recently, we have taken up tennis. Well, he has, and been working with me to learn how to do different things to the best of my ability. He's definitely one of the best teachers and greatest friends that I have ever been gifted from this universe.
Man, and that's awesome because again, you're being able to say you have a person that kind of mentored you, and realizing that, especially with Troy, people who don't realize not just him as a dancer, and being also influential in creating these DVDs and instructional manuals to learn bachata, but he's also known as an MC. So I think having those multitasking talents really help as well.
Absolutely. Something to look up to and inspire me and motivate me to always just keep going.
Yeah, and so then around that time of you learning to dance in New Orleans, did they really have any type of salsa events during those times?
In a sense, yes. I was 13, 14 when I started, so a lot of it was more in the club scene. Before a Latin night, there would be a dance lesson, the hour before, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody comes late, so dance lesson, practice hour, and then it's like club pop in party time. Um, so I got my experience any way that I could. My mother was always with me, by my side, if not in the class, just watching,
Yeah.
watching like a mama bird.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it really, I guess maybe that was one of the biggest reasons why the next step for me, or training, or being involved, or getting my social dancing,
Mm-hmm.
was to travel to congresses. So I was really young when really it was Troy's like, hey, there's these congresses and festivals and events that would be great for her to like take things to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
So we did it. We packed up and went to Texas every year that I can remember. And that's every time I travel, I feel like it always gave me something, if not a connection, or a new teacher, or new moves, or new friends, such as yourself.
Yeah. I mean, and it's funny you talk about Texas. If people don't know, we're talking about the Texas Salsa Congress, which is organized by Ruby Rivera. And this event, honestly, for me, dating back like the early 2000s, realizing like we were able to meet at places like Texas, but
Mhm.
also was more or less in Florida from the great and the late David
Yes.
Melendez that
Yes.
created, I think, which was different because, like you said, in New Orleans, you had the clubs. So you
Right.
understood there was an age limit. But now, actually having an event at one point in time that was dedicated to the youth,
Yes. We are
having
so
that.
blessed that we got to experience that.
Yeah. I mean, I still remember the days of actually in Florida. I still remember my boy Jared and his cousin Eddie.
Yep.
And we were all together and they introduced me to you
Yep.
and just like realizing we kind of just bonded. And
Yep.
literally, I mean, you were from New Orleans, we were from New York, and we always still kept in touch. And it was like,
Hmm.
because for me, as a youth dancer, I was always surrounded by the same kids that I always saw. So for me to actually meet someone outside of my state who loved what I loved, but actually in reality, for most people don't get it, in the South, the biggest thing is hospitality. And
Yep.
that right there was like a kicker because I mean, like, wow, meeting a girl around my age that simply loves
Yeah.
dancing, is humble, wholesome, and just has very good intentions. And it's like, wow, that's where the friendships build. So,
Yep.
I think for me, having those events for our age group was awesome. But also, I mean, even places like Texas Salsa Congress, that you would come and you're around adults. So I think a question I have was, what was a really great memory that you've had at the Texas Salsa Congress?
Let's see. Texas Salsa Congress specifically. I think I'm gonna give two.
Hmm.
One of them is right after Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah.
So Katrina hit in August 2005,
Mm-hmm.
March 2006. New Orleans was on the dance floor that year. So
Mm.
I just remember going and like everybody had been separated and evacuated and
Yep.
moved or just displaced. And that was the first time in how I guess it was like about 6 months that we got to see each other again.
Mm.
And so that was a really special moment and memories for me because I was like the little sister. And
Yeah.
at that point, I was like 15, 16, I think 16, no, 15.
Mm-hmm.
And so just to kind of feel that love from the community was amazing. And it really gave me the confidence that I needed to like get out there on that dance floor. And then the second memory that sticks out is the 10-year anniversary where
Mm.
you and I got together and we stayed in the
Yes.
room and we
Yep.
had so much fun. Y'all
Oh.
performed and y'all killed it. I just remember I think we were closer to 18. I remember I think I was in college, so it was kind of one of
Yeah.
my first trips, like road trip by myself, like I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to a congress.
Yeah.
So it was awesome and it always just feels like home when I go to the Texas Salsa Congress.
Man, that's amazing. And like you said, you touched on Katrina. And at least before we get to that, many people who don't know, from maybe my research as well, I learned that with being from New York, when it comes to salsa, we always just hear on to, but we didn't realize a lot of us from New York who weren't able to travel as much at that time didn't understand there was so many different styles, and realizing there was an on one style that, for me as a youth too, I was getting acclimated to. And I think that helped because, I mean, I would see you at Texas or Florida, and it actually helped me brush up on my on one skills.
Yes. Yes,
And
I did not know the difference, and New Orleans is a lot more on one. And I'll never forget the first summer I met y'all. I'm like, I can't dance with them. I don't know what they're doing. So maybe like the second or third time around I'm like, all right, so now it's
yeah,
y'all's turn.
we get, yeah, because then we're going. It's happening because then our schools will go to places like Texas, and
Hmm.
then we were like, oh wow, there's a different style or a style we're not accustomed to.
What are they doing?
Uh, but then also, at least before we get to Katrina, what was the initial atmosphere like of the New Orleans dance scene when you were growing up?
Oh, good question. It was fun. It was vivacious. It was a different kind of world.
Hmm.
Again, I was really young and a lot of them were older. So for just I don't know, I would say 15 and they were like 21 and up, 21 to
Hmm.
30. So it the they seemed like family, like a community. Everybody knew each other. Um, I remember there being, I don't want to say cliques, but like groups,
Yeah.
like Liquid Rhythm has been around for 17 years. So
Mm.
they're staple. They're
Yeah.
two, Derek and Marianne Hell, and they're dancers, and then Troy, but it was always together.
Yeah.
And we're all, everybody dancing with everyone. And I just remembered feeling so cool because I went out and would dance with like the older, they just always respected me and seemed to
Hmm.
respect each other. And I feel like back in the day, dancing, or from my memories, dancing was a lot more about like the style and the
Yeah.
flavor that you brought. I used to call it getting salsified. You had to like get into the zone to like step
Hmm.
on. I had never worn heels before, so it was like my first time wearing heels. And just the way everybody would always just take me in, if I wanted to practice or like, hey, Eva, let's get Bianca to practice on the dance floor, on the dance tee, like anything that
Hmm.
was there, they opened the door for me. And I just really remember everybody had a piece of personality that inspired me or motivated me to kind of become who I am today.
Yeah, absolutely. And realizing, as you said, I think an integral piece to your growth as a woman has been Eva, your mom. And
Yeah.
for me to know her as long as I've known you, and just having that family atmosphere every time I see her, but realizing is that no matter what you've done in your life, she's always right there with you.
Oh yeah.
No matter, and mind you, people have to realize too, like congresses aren't cheap. Even 10 plus years ago, taking not one but two people and making that commitment to come to events yearly, annually. I
Yep.
mean, I definitely got to give it up to Eva for sure.
Yes, Mama Eva is the bee's knees. She has a gift of nurturing
Yeah.
talent or seeing that in someone and kind of like pulling it out. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of my funnest memories are us two together, like at a Congress.
Hmm.
Like you said, it is a lot of money. I remember she used to be like, "You ain't shy when you're home. You're not gonna be shy here. Get on this dance floor. Come on."
Oh my
I
God.
remember one time I had to try out for a high school dance team,
Hmm.
and I was really sore, like just from the working it up, and when we got there, she's like, "You want a massage?" Like, "You're gonna go and dance." I don't care how sore you are. So she definitely has always been that motivation, always there to push me. Uh, Love her. She's one of my biggest role models, and everything that I do now as an adult is kind of following in her footsteps and just trying to shine that light
Yeah.
on myself and others in the community because she's real good at that.
Absolutely. And now understanding what people have to realize is that, especially Hurricane Katrina, many people also didn't know when that hit, it wasn't just New Orleans. New Orleans got the brunt of it, but that whole southern region was
Yeah.
hit really hard. And like you said, a key point was in 2006, because Katrina happened in '05. What it did, if people didn't realize, it displaced a lot of different residents. Meaning was there were people from New Orleans going to Texas, going to
Hmm.
Alabama, going up north per
Yep.
se. Some people I knew myself, and realizing, especially with New Orleans, it being already a small community, when I believe, like you said, Katrina hit, it kind of just took everyone and spread them out.
Yeah.
And then a question I have is, now we're kind of looking post Katrina. And for me, I was also told that when kind of the reviving of the scene was coming back,
Hmm.
you were also able to work with people like Chino, who's out in Texas right now, and work with him and do classes. And how was that like, kind of being one of those pieces of kind of rebuilding?
Yes, that was something then I was definitely too young to understand like the importance of that role.
Hmm.
For me, it was my so we came home and we're just rebuilding our lives, and a big part of mine was dancing. So
Hmm.
my mom reached out to Chino because he was going to school at LSU, so he had to come
Yeah.
back. He had to finish school. And she's like, "Look, I'll hook it all up. I just want Bianca to continue dancing, so she can be your teaching assistant, your um, mentee,
Hmm.
whatever. Do it." So he's like, "Yeah, absolutely." So it was so organic, it was
Yeah.
a little bit more for us
Hmm.
because at that time we were all we had. Um, but looking back on it years later, I do try to give myself that kudos because even though I may have just been the assistant, like my mom or we were really
Hmm.
big part in kind of facilitating whatever we could at that time. So
Hmm.
I think that's a big thing that kind of sparked the gave me the spark to want to give back to the community like that. And so for me, it was always like you see the void, like let's go ahead and try to fill it however that we can. So that comeback in that rebuilding time, and everybody played a part in it. It was just kind of
Hmm.
different timelines that eventually got us to where we needed to go. Took a really long time, but it really was a lot about everybody just coming back when they could come back home.
Yeah, and realizing too, like you're saying, it took a long time, and people have to realize, especially with a tragedy like Katrina, that made you literally have to find a new way of life it's really hard for people who are from there to want to come back,
Yeah.
especially then a dance community, let alone just, besides the dance community, kind of come back to some reality or some, home. So
Yeah.
realizing that the people who were there, who were able to stay, and then while the city was rebuilding, the actual dance community was rebuilding. So, like you're saying, is that I noticed that you have so many traits like your mom because the end goal is always contributing to the community. Because if you have the community's backing, everything else would be much easier.
Yep. We got to come together. Community.
Absolutely. So then, really understanding from kind of post Katrina and through that, after your work with Chino, what other ways were you able to find yourself laying some type of contribution or just having yourself involved in the mix?
So I went to college. I think it was about maybe 2 years because oh 05 and oh 08 I went to college. So when I went away, it was really important to me to continue dancing.
Mm-hmm.
So I went an hour down south, Thibodaux, Louisiana, kind of by the country, and and there was no dancing. So I went on campus and I asked, is there a dance studio or a space here that I can give classes? Like, I don't care about getting paid. I really just want to do this because I love it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of when I got my foot in on teaching, taking everything that I had learned from
Yeah.
my experiences in the traveling and the assisting. Um, and so I stayed connected to it, but I wasn't connected to New
Mm-hmm.
Orleans, right? I
Yeah.
moved away essentially for 3 years and grew up. So when I
Mm.
came home, 20, almost 21, barely. It's like a whole new world. I don't even really
Yeah.
know a lot of faces. I know some old faces. So I'm just at this point trying to get my feet back wet and like, where's
Mm-hmm.
the dancing? Who's giving classes? Like, what is going on in our
Yeah.
community? And that's kind of how NOLA Flow got started.
Yeah.
So from that, I just started, social media was still fairly new back then.
Mm-hmm.
And so just all the scrolling and flyers and info and part. And so
Yeah.
I would save everything and just kind of compile a little list. And it kind of took off. I'm like, wait, I think other people could really benefit from knowing what is happening in our community right now
Mm-hmm.
as we rebuild, even though at this point it's about 5 years almost after. Still important to kind of have that bulletin board.
Yeah.
Before, back in the day, before social media, you would have to go to a coffee shop and find the flyer on the thing, and like, if you're lucky, people show, or if people.
Yeah.
So I felt like that was a really good way of kind of making all those connections personally, but also for everybody involved.
Yeah, no, no, and I agree. And like I've told you before, is that I think that right there, one of those projects that you were able to create, uh, to me was really special because within our community, like you said, having a place you can go to find all the latest info. In New York, we have someone like Steve Shaw who had salsanewyork.com. And to realize a person like yourself that I knew was doing the same format and
Hmm.
realizing how much of a contribution and how much of a easier access you were giving to everyone,
Yep.
because realizing that, like you said, it's from the days of going into a coffee shop and seeing a bulletin and finding it, we realize that technology advances, people see things at a quicker and faster rate, and they kind of want their news now. So
Yeah.
realizing again, and I've told you, I give you the ultimate respect because to put all those events and section them and individually put that info and making sure everyone is included, I think that it truly is something to be recognized.
Thank you. It's so much work. It would turn into hours and hours and hours of. The biggest thing was there's a party on Friday and it's Tuesday and they posted it a week, and then so much would happen. Like, where the
Yeah.
one thing I'm looking for is not where I need it to be. So yeah, it was a lot of work, but again, it was very rewarding in the end. And to this day, COVID, I haven't been able to keep up. There's nothing to keep up with, but
Yeah.
I have been, from that, I've gotten the opportunity to do an event submission for a
Mm.
local newspaper, K-Pasa newspaper. So
Okay.
taking things to the next level, making sure that everybody really gets the word out. We
No,
work really hard, so we all deserve uh, even playing ground when it
I
comes to what's happening.
absolutely. I mean, because to be honest, people don't realize the time and the effort it does to informing the masses about what's happening in their communities because people get complacent, people get
Hmm.
lazy, and that
Hmm.
job it can be very stressful. But realizing that again, you now went from being just a novice dancer to training to then becoming an assistant, to then becoming a teacher, to then becoming more, in a sense, an informer of, I
Hmm.
would say, you became your own social media and
Yeah.
having that touch of the Nola and the flow,
Yep.
it worked hand in hand. And but also I think people need to recognize is, I mean, around these past recent years, realizing that you've also taken up becoming a DJ and doing that. And how has that been?
So DJing has been great. The whole journey has been amazing. Really kind of from that blog and putting everything's info together. I think it really kind of took a turn for me when I was introduced to Kizomba. In
Mm,
2010, I went to Paris with Georgette as like an assistant instructor.
mm-hmm.
And Kizomba was huge there. It was huge. It was almost bigger than bachata. It was like making its way.
Yeah.
I tried taking classes, but it was in French. I Shazammed music. I brought it home a few years later. I'm like, all right, this is my focus. This is what I want. This is what I've been just hoping for it to come. And eventually it fell in my lap. And I did everything that I could to kind of pioneer
Mm-hmm.
the Kizomba community here. I started doing parties and socials and just coordinating events.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because the DJs and nobody knew it. So I'm like, you gotta play. If you don't play a song, I will. Like, I will get people to a house and play an hour of Kizomba music so they can be like, this is great. So
Yes.
that's really kind of how Nola Flow grew from the blog into my business per se.
Mm-hmm.
And so doing the events and over time cutting that DJ expense was a really big overhead cost and also a really big dream of mine to get behind the turntables.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really blessed to have someone in the community reach out to me and want to mentor me. And he's like, I know you got it in you. I'm like, thank you. So shout
Yeah.
out to Elvin, DJ Calderon. Because if it wasn't for him, this dream would have been a little bit further for me to get to, but he definitely helped bring it to my door, and it's been an amazing journey.
That's awesome. And now realizing, fast forwarding, and to realizing even with COVID, before even COVID, you were able to create Ritmeaux Krewe. So
Yes.
I would love at least to give some info on that because I know, of course, you're a busy woman and we don't have too much time, but we'll get to that and definitely have some last few questions and we'll be good to go.
Cool. Yes. So Ritmo. Long story short, Mardi Gras, New Orleans. There's a lot of traditions. There's a lot of partying. There's a lot of fun stuff that happens. And being a salsera, one of my biggest I love salsa music. I listen to that more than like popular today's music. So so I made a promise to myself that there will be Latin music blasting from a speaker somewhere in the city, and it turned into a Mardi Gras marching dance group. I wanted a smaller, like, I really, that was it. I just wanted to hear the music. I wanted that representation. This city has hundreds of thousands of Latinos that live here, and we're not really represented, like, at all. So I thought it was just really important to wave that all of our flags and just get it out there that we're here, we exist, salseros, Latinos, just that diverse melting gumbo pot spice that we add to everything. So Ritmeaux Krewe was a dream come true. It came
Mhm.
something out of nothing, and it went from an idea to 60 people on a team who have learned choreography together and practiced really hard. We march for 6 miles dancing salsa, bachata. We'll take a merengue break every now and then,
Yeah.
but nonstop. We dance the entire way. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of practice. It's a lot of stamina and strength and organizing, but it has been and become the most rewarding thing I've ever done. It was a really big risk to take. I put everything that I had
Mhm.
into it, and it's been a beautiful journey. I think one of my favorite parts of what has come from Ritmeaux Crew is
Mhm.
I don't know how else to put it, but like media attention,
Yeah.
because the biggest point or objective of creating Ritmeaux Crew is being that representation again for salseros and Latinos,
Mhm.
Hispanics in the community. And so every time I get a call to be on the news, I'm like, yes, we made it. We're out here. We made someone smile. We made
Mhm.
somebody want a salsa. So it just feels really good to be able to spread my passion and my purpose with my community and give back to what made me me and just keep that cycle going.
Mhm.
Makes everybody a little happier to move it. And
Yeah.
so it's been a wild ride. 60 people on a dance team. It's a
Oh
wild
my God.
ride.
That's amazing. But just seeing honestly over the years, your growth, your evolution, and now becoming a director of something really that is historic. I love it because
Thank
especially in New
you.
Orleans, having a marching band, but directing it is a whole different task. And
Yes.
honestly, B, I know you've been a busy woman and you got your flight to Puerto Rico, but at least before we go, I just want to know, two questions that I have are really, what do you see for your future in your dance community in New Orleans? But also, what do you want to see change in the community in whole?
I'll go with the future first. So I don't know what the future brings for us. And not just New Orleans, really the world. With COVID, a lot of things are changing. With the current state of civil unrest and just everything that's happening right now, I really don't know what tomorrow will bring. I don't know what January will bring. I mean that's a whole nother convo in itself. Is it time to dance? I haven't
Hmm.
even really been having those conversations yet. I see I enjoy seeing the community around the world talk about it. There's some for, there are some against. I don't even know where I fall into that, which is
Hmm.
really hard to process all of those emotions and everything, being that this is my life.
Yeah.
um, Personally, I haven't had the motivation to like get out there. I'm a DJ, I have everything. I can go do
Yeah.
my own party, but I don't want to be the cause of someone's
Hmm.
health being uh, so I don't know. I don't know what the future will bring. I pray that we will come together safely and happily again and not be like, oh my God, I gotta wear a mask. I
Yeah.
love seeing people's smiles and on the
Hmm.
dance floor. So I really don't know. I pray that we will rebuild and that we will be resilient again for New Orleans, but the entire world. I know
Hmm.
that NOLA, we're always ready to shake back and like get back into it, but right now it's just no foreseeable end in sight as to when is it time to safely get back.
Hmm.
So one of the things that I hope to do in Puerto Rico is get some clarity,
Hmm.
create a schedule, even if it's just to practice with my dance team or find ways to get new members because I'm always digging through like we're interested. I'm like, I know it's just COVID, like we're getting it
Yeah.
together. So what would I like to see changed? That's such a
Hmm.
good question. When we come back, I hope we can just come together a little bit more.
Hmm.
It's something that I've always fought for. And just growing up, like being a young adolescent into a young adult, and knowing how I want to be, how I want to treat people, and how I would like people to treat me.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that we can just get rid of some of the bullying and
Yeah.
some of the egos and some of the competition.
Mm-hmm.
Woo, can we just throw it out? Can't we all just come together when it's a small community here, maybe
Yeah.
about 100 people? Maybe about 100 people who are like really into the dance scene,
Mm-hmm.
plus my 60, because none of them are really dancers.
Mm.
And while I'm here and we're about to go, I just want to shout out to Julie Banks
Hey.
Mims, mi capitana, because I would have never been able to do anything without her.
Mm.
But it's just, I really just want to see us come together. One of my biggest dreams is just kind of forming some kind of like an alliance where each team or each team leader, like we sit at a table, we have a round table talks, like just if there's any drama or bullying or issues or assaults or anything, that we can be leaders of the community and not
Yeah.
just like leaders of ourselves or of our like team. We really got to come together and step up for the good of the people in our future and our children. Just people like Troy and David Melendez are such inspirations because they cared about the kids.
Yeah.
And right now, people care too much about themselves.
Mm.
They don't even care about their mama and their grandmama getting sick. They want to go dance. But that's
And
what I would like to change. I really think that it would do a lot more for us. And I'm sure it's everywhere. I feel like
yeah.
every city, every country, every state has their ways. But
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, spread love. Love yourself. Stay true to yourself, and we'll get there. Stay on the
Absolutely.
positive path.
Absolutely. And B, honestly, I'm so glad that again I could have you on tonight for the first episode just to check up on you before you hit your really long flight
Yeah,
to Puerto Rico. And I definitely wish you safe travels.
thank you.
Again, this is our first interview, and I definitely would love to have you on in the future where we're also going to play some nice, fun games as well. But
Woo!
honestly, Bianca, I appreciate your contribution. I think honestly, you are one of the really important figures in your New Orleans dance community, and that's coming also from an outsider. So for me, I've seen your work. I love it. I appreciate you. I appreciate our friendship. But most of all, I appreciate what you do for other people. And
Thank you.
again, don't stop. We'll definitely be in contact soon. But again, please stay safe, stay warm out there, and just again, keep doing what you're doing.
I will. You and everybody, y'all make sure to follow me on my adventures in Puerto Rico. I can't wait to be moving my bomba skirt on the island and just feeling it all out. And if anybody is looking for me or more info, I don't. Oh, it cut off.
Hey everyone. So, just to let you know, the interview did cut off. But this is what happens nowadays, especially in New Orleans. Things are really crazy right now. But again, I thank you all for tuning in to a really special episode with live discussions with Diamond. Our episode one we have had with Bianca San Martin all the way from New Orleans. It's been a really great interview. Loved every minute of it. And everyone, please again, stay safe, stay warm, but most of all, as well, stay informed. We'll see you tomorrow with our interview with Mr. Jeff Huracan Tavares out in Huracan Dance Company in Queens. See you all tomorrow, people. Bye.